Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Sean Grayson. Sean Grayson, some of you may have heard about this. He had shot and killed Sonya Massey on July 6, 2024. He killed her unnecessarily, and I'm going to be talking about some natal placements, some transits that took place, at the time of the shooting, that may be tied into this. So, first off, I want to offer my prayers and condolences to the close friends and family members of Sonya Massey. Again, this was just, a heinous, terrible thing that transpired, and I do hope that Sean Grayson is going to be prosecuted to the fullest. I mean, I believe, ultimately he will be in prison. It's just a matter of, when it's going to happen. Now, as far as the birth data for Sean Grayson, I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart in which I put the sun at the spot as the ascendant because I don't have a time of birth, but I do know he was born on November 30th, 1993. He has the sun in reckless, foolhardy Sagittarius, very, candid, frank, demeanor, you could say. He has Mars conjunct the Sun, and this could indicate, very, like a volatile time. Sometimes where the basic fundamental character, which is the Sun, can be more volatile and impulsive. And also, he had, based on the solar sunrise time, he has his Moon in Gemini, which could account for very, excitable, high-strung, type of, emotions, reactions, and it was very odd because when I saw the video, on with the shooting, it was like, at least to some degree, it was almost like his demeanor had just like really changed. I mean, I understand he may have been a little bit exasperated, agitated initially when he was called onto the scene to investigate, some possible prowler by Sonya Massey's home. But what it was is, it seemed like, he was, more civil for at least for a certain amount of time. Then all of a sudden he just got very, excited and said, hey, drop, get away from the water, whatever he was saying to Sonya Massey, or he's gonna, shoot her. And, the thing is, it just was almost like I could see like that mercurial, type of nature. It could be from the Gemini moon. Now, if he was born like very late, in that day, his moon may have been in Cancer, but I'm leaning toward it being in Gemini. So what I want to say too is that he also has the Mars and Sagittarius in opposition to that moon in Gemini, so that it can indicate very like impulsive, types of responses to situations. The Mars in Sagittarius can, by itself can indicate very, reckless, foolhardy, type of actions, and actions that may be due to self-righteousness, self-righteous behavior. And the thing too about this, I'm going to see what else we're going to talk about in his chart. Now, the thing is, based on the solar, sunrise time, he has a preponderance of planets on the left side of the chart, which can, suggest that, a nature that is very, like independent, self-reliant, is not, going to, not doing things. It's more about doing things when the person wants to, and not waiting to be cajoled or coaxed by others to do so. Like a very independent, type of manner, and more likely to do things, by oneself if he has to, as opposed to collaborating with others on projects and endeavors. And it tells me that he basically is somebody that's just going to do what he wants, and in a hurry to do it without really going conferring with anybody else. And maybe I'd say it could have shown in this kind of situation in a very negative way, unfortunately. And another thing about his chart is that what I noticed, okay, he has the moon in Gemini making it in conjunct to his Pluto, and but that is based on the solar sunrise time. So, in that example, I mean, in that instance, keep in mind, in conjuncts can often be about adjustments. They can indicate too much or too little of something. So when you have the moon in conjunct in Pluto in a natal chart, it can manifest in too much or too little control over one's emotions. And maybe what happened was he just had a little bit, really hardly had any control over the emotions, unfortunately, in this matter with the shooting of Sonya Massey. So anyway, the thing about this too, about his chart, is see, what else I'm going to get at? Well, I noticed that he has a number of planets in the solar sunrise chart in the 12th house. There's 3 planets in Scorpio, Mercury, Pluto, and Venus, and that could be, just a lot of, vengeful energy. That could be the self-undoing, because Scorpio can be vindictive, vengeful energy. 12th house is self-undoing, and it's also the house of imprisonment and incarceration. Another thing, too, about it, what I notice is that his, in the solar sunrise chart, the second quadrant of this chart is empty. The second quadrant consists of houses 4, 5, and 6, which can indicate there may not be, an overabundance of emphasis, on the home, the family, like children, if he has any, and incorporating them into, the daily routine. Another thing about his chart is that he has Uranus making a very tight conjunction to his Neptune. Which could manifest in, Uranus, like being very, Uranus in Capricorn, it's generational, may incline toward rebelling, from, just, what rules and regulations. And the conjunction to Neptune may indicate that there may be, incarceration for that, more of a propensity for being imprisoned for that. Now, another thing, too, is that in the solar sunrise chart, he has Saturn in the 3rd house, which can suggest limitations in the rational thinking. And he also has Saturn making a square to his Pluto. And I mean, that could manifest in a number of ways. It could be a very extreme, authoritative, type of nature. Some other things it can, suggest as well is that there may be, Saturn is responsibility and Pluto is death. So when you have the bad relationship between Saturn and Pluto, it can suggest possibly difficulty taking responsibility for some death or murder. And he's, trying to, it seems like he's trying to fabricate some story that he was in some kind of danger, that Sonya Massey was going to throw, some hot boiling water on him, and, she's like 20 feet away or whatever it was. And it was really something, that's very incredulous to me, that somebody would say something like that, anything to get out of, telling the truth and, taking accountability for one's actions, I would say. Now, another thing too, I'm going to get into, some transits in a little bit, what he has. And what I want to say, though, I'm looking at, Pisces on the cusp of the 4th house can indicate that the home, in some cases, might be in a jail cell, might be in prison. He also has transit Neptune in that 4th house in the solar sunrise chart, and that can suggest where a person's home may be in prison, in a jail cell. The thing about that is that transit Neptune in one's 4th house can also be about the dissolving and dissipation of one's latter part of life. And if he winds up going to jail as a result of this, he may be in there for a good time, and even that, the latter part of his life may be dissolving right in front of his eyes, basically. Another thing I noticed is that one of the rulers of the 12th house in this chart, which is Pluto, because Scorpio is on the 12th house cusp. He's got the ruler of that 12th house is in the 12th house, and that could indicate that deception could be the self-undoing, and or may even lead to imprisonment. And another thing I noticed too, with this, as far as any transits, one thing that stands out to me is that Sean Grayson had transit Mercury in bombastic Leo, making a square to his Jupiter, and that can suggest telling tall tales. Leo doesn't do anything on a small manner. It could have been being very overconfident that he was going to be able to distort something and exaggerate something as far as him being in some kind of imminent danger or what have you, and thinking that it would actually sound plausible and and it would go over well, people would accept this. Where unfortunately for him, he's got the video tape evidence which contradicts this anyway. Now, another thing I want to say as far as a transit goes, I also noticed that Jupiter, was in his 7th house, at the time, which can enlarge issues that are connected, with the law, with the legal situation. The thing that I wanted to say too, something that would stand out to me is that when I look at this, when I look at as far as one thing with the synastry, I noticed with him and Sonya Massey that stands out is that his south node is in Gemini, and in Sonya Massey's solar sunrise chart, that south node in Gemini makes a conjunction to her 4th house cusp, and sadly, in some cases, that can manifest in one limiting that person's latter part of life, their safety, their security. And Gemini can be superficial, and I can't make any accusations by any means. This may not be true, but it does make me wonder, with this being in Gemini, being superficial, was there anything that could have been racially motivated in this event? What happened with the shooting of Sonya Massey, and if that may have played a role, to some degree. And the thing too is, and also, when you look at this, I stated this in a previous video when I was talking about, astrology and the death of Sonya Massey, is that Sean Grayson's Saturn makes a conjunction to her sun, and that could be where one was going to have to be responsible for that person's life. The Saturn person would at some point could take responsibility for that person's life and also limit unfortunately, that person's life. And the thing too is, when you look at all this, this energy like that Sean Grayson has, a strong, Scorpio energy, very incisive, caustic. You have, the Sagittarius energy, the Sun and Mars in Sagittarius being such where that could be, very audacious, foolhardy, reckless. And he has the North Node in Sagittarius as well. I find it interesting that in the solar sunrise chart, it falls in his 12th house of limitations, where it shows that his future in the law may be limited, and likely again, I do believe he will, be imprisoned at some point in time. It's just going to be a matter of when, it's going to, happen, really, is what it's going to, come down to. And the thing I noticed too is that one of the rulers of that 12th house, Mars, conjuncts his sun, and the 12th house rules imprisonment and incarceration. So it's not surprising that you're having that ruler Mars, which is that ruler of the 12th house of imprisonment, conjoin Sean Grayson's sun. It could indicate that imprisonment could have very strong impact on that person's life, and life, for Sagittarius could have been one where he had a lot of fun and enjoyment, and in which he felt he had a lot of freedom to do basically whatever he wanted, be go on adventures, maybe be involved in sports and the outdoors strongly. But he's got to, the thing is that all things come to an end. In this case, sadly, sadly for him, I know it's going to be happy for a lot of people, though, that his life is going to be, ending the way he, is going, has experienced it for some time. So, this is, this is something, where, you don't, it's kind of like if you don't do the, crime, don't do the, you don't want to do the time, then don't do the crime. And I think, with him, with Sean Grayson, I think he actually, had this audacity in his mind that he believed that he could get out of this unscathed and that he won't be punished. But, he's going to have a rude awakening, on this, without a doubt. And again, I do hope that he is prosecuted really to the fullest. And funny thing is, they're going to have that, I believe it's going to be a full moon lunar eclipse in September, being Pisces. And the thing is, that's going to fall very close to Sean Grayson's fourth house cusp. And the fourth house cusp is our, the end of life, our security, our safety, the home. And the full moon lunar eclipses can manifest in very, especially the lunar eclipse, a very powerful revelation or unveiling. And having it hit that, right near that fourth house cusp, it's really going to be telling. It could be something where there could be a revelation that he is going to be, incarcerated, and that's going to be basically, the prison will be, the new home for him. Although I do think that would be fairly, relatively soon, because you're talking about, that September 17th, 18th, whenever that lunar eclipse hits, that's only about a month and a half from now. But I think it'll be, even if there's no actual announcement of that officially, I think at least there may be more of a realization to him and others that is really what's going to, go down for him. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.